Hello students, welcome to the lecture on security and ethical challenges. And after this lecture, we will be able to learn the following objectives. Describe the ethical responsibilities of business professionals. Explain the business technology. Define the computer crime and hacking. Discuss about the cybercrime. Define the privacy of software and intellectual property. Describe the privacy issues and the internet privacy. Explain the working condition, health and social issues. Discuss about the ergonomics and cyber terrorism. Let's start with the concept of security and ethical challenges. Business ethics, also known as corporate ethics, is a form of applied ethics or professional ethics that examines ethical principles and moral or ethical problems that arise in a business environment. It applies to all aspects of business conduct and is relevant to the conduct of individuals and business organizations as a whole. Applied ethics is a field of ethics that deals with ethical questions in many fields such as medical, technical, legal and environmental ethics. Business ethics can be both a normative and a descriptive discipline. As a corporate practice and a career specialization, the field is primarily normative. In academia, descriptive approaches are also taken. The range and quantity of business ethical issues reflects the degree to which business is perceived to be at odds with non-economic social values. Computer crime or cybercrime refers to any crime that involves a computer and a network. Let us now discuss the ethical responsibilities of business professionals. Ethical responsibilities, in contrast to legal responsibilities, are moral rules that are generally accepted good practices. Ethical responsibilities are critical for a well-functioning society because they include respect and honest dealing between individuals. There are many principles or ethical responsibility that can be examined. Individual decisions, small business ethics should move beyond big strategic decisions. Employees and managers need to focus on their day-to-day behavior. communicate and commit to ideals from the beginning, and promote work-life balance at organizations. When it comes to making tough choices like deciding whether to ship product or miss a deadline for extra testing, consult teammates. Strategy. Being ethical does not have to mean shelling out large amounts of cash to fund social causes. Pitch in at local soup kitchen for a weekend afternoon or train for a charity race with workmates. Broadcast the participation on social media channels and report it on a section of website dedicated to company's mission and values. Even if we only gave time or money because it felt right, communicating our efforts is smart in an atmosphere where investors value transparency. Now moving on to the next topic, we will study the business technology. Business technology encompasses a wide range of hardware, software, and services that keep companies running and enhance operations. Technology plays into every aspect of a business, from accounting to customer communications to product design and development. The rapid forward movement in technology development over the last couple of decades has provided more powerful and less expensive options for companies. Business technology can help small business look bigger than they are and keep them ahead in a competitive marketplace. Business technology (BT) is ever increasing reliance on information technology by businesses of all types to handle and optimize their business processes. Internet. The growth of the Internet has marked a sea change in small business technology. Businesses use websites to advertise, provide information, sell products, and reach new customers. Software as a service (SaaS) is software that is delivered in an ongoing fashion over the web rather than through CDs or downloads. Often it is paid for in a monthly or yearly service plan. Specialized technology. Business technology is limited to users surrounding desktop and laptop computers. Technology also makes a mark with high-tech manufacturing robots, advanced microscopes, and other specialized hardware and software. Many tasks that used to be done by hand are now automated and handled by specialized technology tools. Benefit. The smart use of business technology helps small companies stay ahead of the competition by improving communications, making employees more efficient, and tapping into effective marketing channel. Let's know the meaning of computer crime and hacking. Computer crime has been defined broadly as a criminal act that has been committed using a computer as the principal tool. Some have also talked in terms of a distinction between computer-related fraud and computer-assisted fraud. In the former, the computer is purely coincidental. In the latter, the computer is used to commit the fraud. However, others have argued that a genuine computer fraud is one which would not take place without the use of a computer. If we accept this tight definition, then the real computer fraud needs computer expertise and greater skills to perpetrate than do computer-assisted and computer-related frauds. There are three types of behavior that warrant the term criminal offense. The behavior is so serious that it goes beyond what can be dealt with by compensation, and regulation should be in the public interest. That is the idea of crime against society. The behavior is the sort where any sanction less than a criminal one would be ineffective, impractical, or insufficient. The use of criminal sanctions helps to maintain public respect for the law. The behavior should be possible to enforce the offense. Forms of computer crime. Computer crime can take the form of the theft of money, for example, the transfer of payments to the wrong accounts. The theft of information, for example, by tapping into data transmission lines or databases at no cost. The theft of goods by their diversion to the wrong destination. The theft of computer time, for example, use of an employee's computer resources for personal work. Cybercrime. While the Internet has revolutionized business and communication almost overnight, laws regulating its use and misuse have not developed as swiftly. But in the last few years, Congress and the courts have started responding to the threat posed by computer crime. Before 1996, when the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act were amended significantly, prosecutors had to rely on old statutes to make their cases, and many of these statutes were inadequate when applied to the new area of computer crime.
Every day, Thomas works, plays, and buys things on the internet. And sometimes he even speaks with his Aunt Clarissa. Today, the internet is an integral part of Thomas's life. In fact, the internet is a world of virtually unlimited possibilities for all of us, but sadly also for criminals. Every day, they attack our computers, steal our personal and confidential information, or send false messages from banks. That's how Aunt Clarissa lost 600 euros. But cybercriminals also use computers to perpetrate other misdeeds, such as fraud or theft of credit card details. To plan and execute attacks on a large scale, cybercriminals often use botnets, which are networks of compromised personal computers that have been infected by computer viruses. Cybercriminality may affect governments, businesses, and even Thomas's computer. Without even knowing it, Thomas may have already contributed in a small way towards the billions of euros of annual cybercrime profit. He may also have been one of the 1 million cybercrime victims there are in the world every day. Or his computer may have been infected with one of the 150,000 computer viruses in circulation daily. To avoid that Thomas and his Aunt Clarissa are exposed to these dangers on the net, the EU is developing a common policy to fight borderless cybercriminality. It includes close international cooperation and new, stronger laws, identification and removal of child pornography sites and networks, protection of victims, and pursuit of those responsible. Effective partnerships between governments and other public bodies, such as law enforcement authorities and private companies. Criminalizing the creation, use, and provision of botnets aimed at attacking information systems. But policies alone are not enough. Thomas knows he must be more careful. He never sends out his credit card details by email, or gives his passwords to anyone, or puts private information freely on the internet. And he always remembers to update his antivirus software. Thanks to the EU policies and his own efforts, Thomas can now surf more securely.
Types of cybercrime. Cybercrime refers to all activities done with criminal intent in cyberspace. These fall into three slots: those against persons, against business and non-business organizations, crime targeting the government. Let us examine the acts wherein the computer is a tool for an unlawful act. This kind of activity usually involves a modification of a conventional crime by using computer. Some examples are financial claims. This would include cheating, credit card frauds, and money laundering, etc. Cyber pornography. This would include sale of narcotics, weapons, and wildlife, etc. While posting information on websites, bulletin boards, or simply by using email communications. Online gambling. There are millions of websites, all hosted on servers abroad, that offer online gambling. In fact, it is believed that many of these websites are actually fronts for money laundering. Cyber stalking. Cyber stalking can be defined as the repeated acts, harassment, or threatening behavior of the cybercriminal towards the victim by using internet services. Who is a cyber stalker? A cyber stalker sends harassing or threatening electronic communication to the victim. Both kinds of stalkers, online and offline, have desire to control the victim's life. How does a cyber stalker operate? Typical cyber stalker collects all personal information about the victim, such as name, family background, telephone numbers of residence and workplace, daily routine of the victim, address of residence and place of work, date of birth, etc. If the stalker is the victim's acquaintances, he/she has easy access to this information. If the stalker is a stranger, he/she collects the information from internet resources such as various profiles the victim may have filled in while opening chat or email accounts or while signing an account with some website. The stalker may post this information on any website related to sex services or dating services, posing as if the victim is posting this information and invite the people to call the victim on her telephone numbers to have sexual services. A stalker even uses a very filthy and obscene language to invite the interested persons. When does cyber stalking happen? In many cases, the cyber stalker and the victim had a prior relationship, and the cyber stalking begins when the victim attempts to break off the relationship. However, there also have been many instances of cyber stalking by strangers. Given the enormous amount of personal information available through the internet, a cyber stalker can easily locate private information about a potential victim with a few mouse clicks or keystrokes. The fact that cyber stalking does not involve physical contact may create the misperception that it is more benign than physical stalking. This is not necessarily true. Denial of service. This is an act by a criminal who floods the bandwidth of the victim's network or fills his email box with spam mail, depriving him of the services he is entitled to access or provide. This act is committed by a technique called spoofing and buffer overflow. The criminal spoofs the IP address and flood the network of the victim with repeated requests. Since the IP address is fake, the victim machine keeps waiting for response from criminal's machine for each request. This consumes the bandwidth of the network, which then fails to serve the legitimate requests and ultimately breaks down. Child pornography. Child pornography is very unfortunate reality of the internet. The internet is being highly used by its abusers to reach and abuse children sexually worldwide. Child pornography means any visual depiction, including any photograph, film, video, picture, or computer-generated image or picture of sexually explicit conduct, where the production of such visual depiction involves the use of a minor engaging in sexually explicit conduct. Who are pedophiles? Pedophiles are those persons who physically or psychologically coerce minors to engage in sexual activities which the minors would not consciously consent to. How do pedophiles operate? Pedophiles use a false identity to trap the children or teenagers, seek a child or teen victim in the kids areas on the services such as the Teens BB, Games BB or chat areas where the kids gather, befriend the child or teen, extract personal information from the child or teen by winning his or her confidence. Piracy, software and intellectual property. The PC industry is barely 20 years old. In that time, both the quality and quantity of available software programs have increased dramatically. Although approximately 70% of the worldwide market is today supplied by developers in the United States, important development work is carried out in scores of nations around the world. But in both the United States and elsewhere, unauthorized copying of personal computer software is a serious problem. On the average, for every authorized copy of PC software in use, at least one unauthorized copy is made. Unauthorized copying is known as software piracy, and in 1993 it cost the software industry in excess of $12.8 billion US dollar, about $100 billion HK. Piracy, copying or distributing copyrighted software without license is one kind of piracy, but it is not the only kind. Simple possession of unauthorized software is also piracy. Software and intellectual property. Intellectual property rights are at the foundation of the software industry. The term refers to a range of intangible rights of ownership in an asset such as software program. Each intellectual property right is itself an asset, a slice of the overall ownership pie.
Until recently, if you started to talk about intellectual property, most people's eyes would glaze over and they'd try rapidly to change the subject. Recently, however, here in the United States, we had the enormous controversy over SOPA, the Stop Online Piracy Act, which led to a mass movement of protest by people who feared that their own favourite websites would be shut down. Over in Europe, the attempts to shut down the peer-to-peer music sharing site Pirate Bay led to the formation of a new political movement, the Pirate Party, which actually enjoyed considerable electoral success in both Sweden and Germany, despite being a one-issue party. So what is going on here? Well, what you need to realise is that this is not actually about online piracy. What we have here is an argument about intellectual property. And the reason why it's a complicated argument is because there are three quite distinct and different ways of understanding what intellectual property is. The first, and in some ways the simplest way, is to think that intellectual property is just like any other kind of property. Most people who take this view believe that intellectual property is a natural right, and that it should be understood in the same way as other kinds of property, as deriving ultimately from the creative labour of people such as writers, artists and inventors. If this were true, it would mean that every time you wanted to cite the Declaration of Independence, you would have to pay a royalty fee to the estate of Thomas Jefferson. So in practice, most people support the second way of thinking about intellectual property. This is that intellectual property is a special kind of property which is created by governments, and it has a number of features that regular property doesn't have. Most notably, it's time limited. What it also does is to give the holder of the intellectual property a monopoly right in the creative resource that they've created or purchased. And this gives them a higher income from that intellectual resource than they otherwise would get. The reason for doing this is to create an incentive for people to be more productive and more creative and inventive in areas like pharmaceuticals, science, literature, music, the arts, and so on. The third view, which I personally hold, is that intellectual property is both intellectually incoherent and dangerous. It's dangerous because in order to enforce intellectual property, you have to interfere with people's other property rights in real physical objects and to stop them using those objects freely and as they wish to. So you aren't able to freely use, for example, your computer, your MP3 player, or your video recorder.
Huh?
It's also, I would argue, unnecessary, insofar as it's quite possible to encourage and stimulate innovation and invention without resorting to the monopoly privileges of patents and copyright. And indeed there's some case for saying that what patents actually do is to stop and hinder innovation in many areas. The point is that this is a complicated and difficult argument, and it's one which divides people from all parts of the political spectrum, and not in the straightforward ways that you might expect. It's a division that cuts across the normal political divides and disagreements. And what this means is that it's going to keep on going. And because it's an argument with such widespread implications, we're going to see a lot more of it in the years to come. I hope you really enjoyed this. Click on one of these links here to watch more and learn more.
Privacy issues and the Internet privacy. The Internet Society aims to improve the global understanding of transporter personal data flows and the related interdependent objectives of privacy, security, and reliability and user choice. Online privacy is the ability to selectively share information within a specific context. It is about the appropriate handling of information being shared. Focus on enable a voice for the Internet technical community in policy discussions on revisions, modifications, or new privacy frameworks. Policymakers around the world are considering whether traditional privacy laws need to be revised or modified for the online environment, whether to legitimate technical solutions for online privacy. Working condition, health and social issues. In the rapidly changing field of healthcare, social workers' job satisfaction has received increased attention in the literature. Associations have been found between job satisfaction and job performance, and there is further evidence that a relationship exists between satisfaction and job turnover. Working condition challenges. Small business owners and their employees face many challenges in the workplace. While a company owner can strive to make their working environment as ideal as possible, there are still many examples of challenges at the workplace that may affect their employees. Employee interaction. Whenever we have different personalities working together under the same roof, there is bound to be friction from time to time. Teams working under deadline and under pressure may be more apt to have flare-ups of tempers and other issues. Handling customers. Customers bring another level of challenge into the mix. While the vast majority of customers and clients that deal with on a daily basis will be polite and understanding, there is generally an element that is belligerent and hard to handle. Individuals, health and social issues. How social issues affect the life and health of seniors. Social issues can have a significant impact on life and both physical and mental health of seniors. Some of the major contributors to social and psychological problems for seniors are loneliness from losing a spouse and friends, inability to independently manage regular activities of living, difficulty coping and accepting physical changes of aging, frustration with ongoing medical problems and increasing number of medications. These factors can have a negative impact on overall health of an older individual. Ergonomics and cyber terrorism. Ergonomics is the science of designing user interaction with equipment and workplaces to fit the user. It is the study of designing equipment and devices that fit the human body, its movements and its cognitive abilities. Proper ergonomic design is necessary to prevent repetitive strain injuries which can develop over time and can lead to long-term disability. Ergonomics. The International Ergonomics Association defines ergonomics as follows. Ergonomics or human factors is the scientific discipline concerned with the understanding of interactions among humans and other elements of a system, and the profession that applies theory, principles, data and methods to design in order to optimize human well-being and overall system performance. Ergonomics is employed to fulfill the two goals of health and productivity. Cyberterrorism. Cyberterrorism is a phrase used to describe the use of internet-based attacks in terrorist activities, including acts of deliberate, large-scale disruption of computer networks, especially of personal computers attached to the internet by means of tools such as computer viruses. Now, in the end, let us summarize what we have learnt in this lecture. Computer crime has been defined broadly as a criminal act that has been committed using a computer as the principal tool. Corporate ethics is a form of applied ethics or professional ethics that examines ethical principles and moral or ethical problems that arise in a business environment. Macroergonomics is an approach to ergonomics that emphasizes a broad system view of design, examining organizational environments, culture, history, and work goals. Ethical responsibilities are critical for a well-functioning society because they include respect and honest dealing between individuals. Business technology encompasses a wide range of hardware, software and services that keep companies running and enhance operations.